week's parsha, we have the long tochachah regarding the fate of the Jewish people in exile. Well, the first tochachah is in the parsha B'chukotai, the end of Chumash Vayikra. And the second one is here in Parshat Ki Tavo, towards the end of Chumash Dvarim. The Ramban is of the opinion that the first tochachah refers to Bayit Rishon, which was a relatively short exile, 70 years, and which, even though it had terrible events associated with the Churban Bayis Rishon and with the taking of the Jewish people into exile, but the exile itself was a relatively benign one, with the exception of the story of Purim. But otherwise, the Jews seem to have settled very well in Bavel and then later under the Persians, and that they did not suffer great persecution or great discomfort. So much so that we know that when Ezra attempted to return to build Bayis Sheni, most of the Jews of Bavel refused to accompany him, and they said, "We're in good shape in Bavel. We don't have to go through all the troubles that Eretz Yisrael will undoubtedly bring." So now the Ramban says the second tochachah, which is twice the length, and one would almost say twice as graphic in intensity as the words of the first tochachah, that applies to the long exile of Bayis Sheni, which we're talking in terms of 19 centuries. And that all of these troubles, which the Torah details very, very minutely for us, would occur to the Jewish people in the exile. It concludes with the promise that will not destroy you. So as far as individual Jews are concerned, they certainly were destroyed. As far as individuals are concerned, they were certainly victims. But in terms of the Jewish nation as a whole, so then the nation would withstand all of those difficult descriptions that are in the parsha. Rashi himself quotes the famous medrash that when the Jewish people heard this tochachah, Horikon Pneim Shel Bnei Yisrael, their faces turned white from such awful predictions. So Moshe had to reassure them, and that's next week's parsha of Nitzavim. He said, even though all of these 98 terrible occurrences happened to you, but still, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem. You're all here today, but the Jewish people will survive. And before we discuss whether that's an adequate comfort, they reckon it to a person that, God forbid, is very ill. And the person has to undergo painful surgery. And then the person has to undergo rehabilitation. And then the person has to have bed rest. and then finally the person is restored to health and he's able to function. So if you would ask that person, the person is certainly grateful that he's able to go out on the street again, or able to go to his work, or able to continue with his life. But if you would ask him, would he appreciate the experience, the answer would probably be no. And that's the famous phrase that the Medrash itself brings, Lo ma'uktzach v'lo meduvshach. It's like saying to a bee, I don't want to be stung and I don't want to eat your honey. Leave me alone. But all of this has happened to us. It's a recording. I mean, that maybe there would be in a certain century, let us say, it would look like an exaggeration, hyperbole. Such things can't happen. But we are unfortunately living witness to the fact that not only can such things happen, they did happen. And that the punishments of the tochachah are real. So there are different customs amongst the Jewish people regarding the actual reading of these psukim by the Baal Koreh. So there's one custom that the person that's called up for that aliyah should be the Baal Koreh himself, or the gabbai in the shul, or someone, in other words, so not to insult any of the people who are praying in the shul, that you call them up for the tochachah. Now that's a superstition, but superstitions have power. People believe in them. So they don't want to be called up for that. So therefore, in other communities, just the opposite was shown. In order to show that the superstition doesn't exist, and that one posuk in the Torah is as valuable as any other posuk in the Torah, and that we don't pick and choose which verses we want to hear when we have an aliyah. So many times it was given to the elders of the community, to the rabbi of the community. There were even communities that they went to an extreme that on Simchat Torah they would bid for the right to have that aliyah. So that's like a reverse take on the entire matter. Then there's a custom that the Baal Koreh, the one who reads it softly, in a slight undertone, not the same volume that one reads the rest of the parsha. So that also is a matter of custom, and it's also a matter of reverse custom, because we have the same problem. One pasuk of the Torah is as valuable as another pasuk in the Torah. And there are different minhagim. We have the same idea amongst our brethren, the Svardim, who recite the Kriyat Shema word for word out loud, pretty much in unison. But when it comes to the posuk, v'choro af Hashem b'chem, v'atzar zo shamayim v'elohim ator, v'admonos yiteni zivulo, v'avadetem meherom ha'oretz atova, etc., they don't say that out loud. They say it, but they don't say it out loud. And on that, there also are all sorts of opinions in the poskim, whether or not that minhag should be maintained or it should be modified, because again, every pasuk in Kriya Shema is equal to every other pasuk in Kriya Shema. Yeah, it's not up to you to determine, what you want. Nevertheless, the prevailing minhag is that it is omitted. It's not said out loud. Because again, we have this concept of things that are negative we don't want to publicize. So then there is also a custom that the Balkore reads it quickly at a far more rapid rate than he reads the other psukim in the Torah. So again, there are conflicting customs as to how to do it. I remember I was once in a synagogue in Gitovo, and the Balkore attempted to read it normally, and they almost stoned him, because they felt that was, a violation of tradition and of how it was. And therefore it's treated gingerly. It's, I don't remember from year to year what our custom is here, but whatever it is, it's fine. And it's correct. It's the way it should be done. But these things are really a matter of emotion. And 1900 years of the exile, every word in the tochachah has been taken literally and come true. There's no exaggeration. You don't need any drushes. In our world today, you can see the film. So that made the tochachah, so to speak, in our time, much more real. The tragedy is that most of the Jewish people don't hear the tochachah, and therefore the effect is not what it should be, because it doesn't reach the masses of Israel who are far away, unfortunately, from Torah or from hearing the Torah. So those are all ideas that we can contemplate this Shabbos when we hear the tochachah being read, and we should remember that we're zoche also to atem nitzovim hayom kulchem. The Admonition Shalom has guided us through this morass of problems, and that eventually better times are in store for us. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakas Yisrael Ficha Chibur Lahem Torah Mitzvah Shenemar